As far as injuries go, no changes from yesterday. Everything that I told you yesterday is the same with all the players. We had a good day yesterday. We went inside and got a little rain today, so we'll keep an eye on that. We might go inside today as well. So that's it with injuries. All right, good.
Yeah. Matt, you left open the possibility of keeping an eye on what's going on in the Rams game and how it could dictate what happens in your game. Is that something you have to talk to the players about, or do they just?
No, not at all. That's I have to bring that up to you guys just because then it gives you something to talk about, and then also I can talk about it a little bit. But no, they don't care. We're in this building right now. We're just so focused in on trying to win, honestly. And if we're concerned about any of that other stuff that we can't control, then we're not going to do everything we can to win. And that's why I'm trying to. It is a unique situation. That's the real part. But the other real part is that we are going there to do everything we can to win the game. And whatever happens outside of our game, we can't do anything about it.
Even within that framework, is there something to the potential of playing Minnesota twice in 6 or 7 days that would lead you to alter certain aspects of your game plan?
Nope. No, like I said, it's if we do that, then we're not doing everything we can to win, and so we're going to go about this thing the right way, and that's the only way. Otherwise, then you start doing that, and not everybody's all in, and people have questions. They want to know this, they want to know that, and then there's too much gray, and we want just black and white.
Since they made their coaching change, offensive coordinator, they give the ball to Dalvin Cook a little bit more. What do you think about him? Did you look at him a lot last year when he was coming in the draft? What back is he?
No, he's a dynamic back. He's explosive for his size. He's got good hands. I really liked him when he was coming out. I thought he was a great back. Did a lot of good things. So he was doing that before the coordinator change. He was having a pretty, he's had a good career there. So, we know that he's a good player, and we'll be aware of him.
Why do you think your pass rush has been so effective at home in particular?
Well, you guys can see here when you get noise, when you get crowd noise and it's loud and you're in a dome, and it's hard for your opponents to you gotta go silent. And so anytime that happens, that's a normal tendency for a lot of offenses, is that you might be a tad second, half a tick off. That gives them an advantage. So we know that, we understand that, and we got to be good with our cadences.
Jordan mentioned that because of his usage this year, he might feel fresher now than he did a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a real thing, and is that something that you can?
I think it's a great point. I didn't think of that, but I think it's a great point. I think that Jordan's a smart kid. He understands it. He's telling you how his body feels, and I think it's actually a really good point. Yep.
Matt, when teams defend you as the 49ers didn't kind of force you to take what the defense gives you, is there any way to beat that in a more prolific way? To be as explosive even in that, or is it just set that you're going to be contained and
Well, I think what they try to do is they try to control you with their coverages, but there's still ways to be prolific, and whatever the definition of that is, whether that's shots or whether that's completions. I feel like a team that's going to try to zone you out, we have a quarterback that's going to throw a lot of completions when you do that, and I think he just proved that last week. So you want to play zone, and we'll go ahead and do what we need to do there.
In that regard, do you feel like the way you attacked it last week discouraged teams from using that, or if teams have the option, do you feel like they will?
Again, I think every game's different. I'm going to go back to just telling you, I think it's on the scheme of the defensive coordinator and the personnel they have. Some teams just can't, they're not good at zone. They don't want to play it. Others can't play man. So, and then you got ones that can play both, and then that's predicated off of what they think they can beat you with. So every week's a little bit different. And then if they see a weakness within our offense, that's what they're going to attack.
You mentioned the other day that with the defense you have to be cognizant of ball security and stuff. Do you have to fight any part of you that wants to be aggressive all the time? You always talk about taking deep shots, doing all that. Does having this dominant defense tamp that down a little bit? No,
for me it doesn't, but it can be situational. Like by game, maybe by where you're at in the game, within the game. So whether it's by the team you're playing or whether it's by the situation you're in, it could. But it's not going to change our mentality of being able to stay aggressive. That's just not who we are. If they're going to give us an opportunity to be aggressive, we're going to do that. If they're going to try to take away us being aggressive, then we got to be able to take away other spots, take advantage of other spots.
You guys win on Sunday. That's 5 division wins. I don't think the team won a division game last year, period. What's the significance of that
if you were able to accomplish that?
It all starts there. You got to win your division games. And our guys, we talked about at the beginning of the year some goals that we had. When you win your division games, you're giving yourself, a really good chance at being able to be there in the end to win a division, which is going to get you, a home playoff game at the minimum. So I just love that our guys followed up with that. They take it seriously, and no matter who you are, what team you are, you want to always be in. And it comes into tiebreakers too. It plays into tiebreakers as well.
Robinson, how did he feel yesterday? And when you said it's the same, do you anticipate him not practicing again?
Yeah, I probably see him being similar to today. So far, I see him being the same as what he was yesterday. He's a little sore, but we'll monitor that, and I don't want to do anything to make it worse and not. I want to make sure that we're just attacking that the right way.
Talk about the unique situation that you're in this week.
Yeah.
Does that inform how you will handle him, whether he plays Sunday?
No, if I feel like, if I feel like he's in a position to where we can, hey, he tells us, hey, I feel great. I needed a few days rest here. I'm feeling good, and then that's something that, again, I'll get with our trainers. Is he safe to do it? And if he is, let's go. And if he's not, if it's going to hurt him, or if he's going to say he's good and we put him out there and he's not good, then that's not fair to the team. So that's where we got to see when we get to the end of the week. We'll see exactly where he's at, and if he can help us in any way, let's go. If he can, he hurts us, the next guy up.
Matt, you beat the Lions and the Packers the second time around. I know you said every game is independent, but did having those previous games kind of on tape help you? Andy Reid was good at that in winning the second game. Is there an advantage to be gained for a coach in facing a team a second time?
Not really. I think because you could say it's the same thing for them too. I think, again, are you at home? Are you on the road? Where's your team at, injury-wise? But for me being my first year with this team, for me being my first year with this offense, I think if you're seeing a team for the second time later in the year, it's going to be an advantage for us more than it is the beginning of the year because this is our first year. Down the road, that could be maybe a slightly different, but having them a second time, knowing their personnel, knowing what they did before, it could possibly be a little bit easier for you. Not easier, but it could help you out a little bit.
Matt, for your offense, how necessary is a guy like Tariq?
How necessary is he? Well, I really like 29. So, but again, I feel like in our offense we have different guys. If 29's not in or not playing, then we find another guy to fulfill that role. But each player has his own level of advantages of how good of a player they are and their strengths and weaknesses. And he's got a lot of strengths and not a lot of weaknesses. So having him be a part of what we do and what we scheme is a huge advantage.
Matt, this team, whether it's you or the players, most people on your staff, you guys are in a position that this team has not been in for the last few years. How much do you rely on what you learned from Andy, and what's the one thing in particular that you've really kind of fallen back on?
I rely on that a lot just because I would have the luxury of being able to be around and see the weekly process of how he handled, on how Coach Reid handled practices, meetings, games. And the best part of all that was you didn't change. You just did what you did, and nothing. You don't try to act different. You don't try to coach different. You don't try to teach different. You do everything the same. And when you do that, it's worked. And I put my own little spin on it here or there with some things, but for the most part, you don't need to. It is a unique situation. It's different for a lot of our players and for some of our coaches. They're our first time together doing all this, but they're going to see with me that we just keep going about our business and controlling what we can control. Thank you.
Locker room open at 12:15 today.
against the Vikings in November. What do you recall about why the run defense was so effective?
I don't think it was any one particular reason. You know, we played good, you know, and they got away from it after a while, but I don't think there's any one outstanding factor other than we've played the run decently for the most part all year.
Where's that offense noticeably changed since they changed coordinators a couple weeks ago?
They haven't changed their offense at all. They've just changed what they're focusing on. You know, so the answer is no, they haven't changed their offense at all, but they're emphasizing other parts of their offense more than they were.
Last 3 games, you guys have only given up 1 touchdown. What has impressed you most just overall about the defense the last couple weeks?
You know, just that we've continued to play better. We've avoided the self-inflicted bad plays that we had in the Giant game, which contributed to our failings in that game. And we've, you know, played well.
Regardless of what happens this week and in the playoffs, how will you look back on what your defense has done this season? What has stood out? What impresses you?
Well, I mean, we got to finish the season to totally give you a complete answer on that, because the way you finish the season goes a long way in answering that question honestly. But up to this point, obviously we've played well. You know, we've had our moments where we haven't, but overall our efforts and our play and our production have been good in most areas.
Kind of going off that, how do you think your group has handled injuries overall, whether it's Mack earlier or Lynch, Callahan, and Eddie?
Good. You know, we've, knock on wood, had a lot of those. You know, Khalil missed his games. You know, he missed 2 games statistically, but really he missed 4. You know, now we've had Eddie and Aaron and Bryce, you know, missing their games. So we haven't had the onslaught of it, but I think overall we've handled it well. The guys that have come in have done a nice job.
What do you think of Butch?
He did good, you know. For his first game in live action, you know, start playing the whole game, I thought he did a good job. You know, he can be better. We need him to be better, but overall was pleased with his performance.
Where do you want him to be better?
Just a little, just in the exact details and everything, both run and pass.
After the game, a couple of defensive players said that they expected to make a play at the end, like when Danny got the interception. How much of the fact that you're making those key plays is confidence and believing that it's going to happen, you think?
Well, you know, that's what it is. I mean, when you've made them in the past, that gives you the confidence and the belief that you can make another one. You know, more so than anything else, any pep talk I can give them or sitting on somebody's couch and getting analyzed. If you've done it already, you believe you can do it again.
Leonard Floyd's numbers aren't they appreciably different this year than last, but it appears his impact is greater. Is that just perception, or is he a better player? Is it just a better group around him? How do you analyze? What's the best way to explain?
I think it's all of that. You know, the numbers. You know, I guess you know what you're alluding to is sack numbers. He'd like to have more. They all would. We'd like to have him have more, but. I think he's played good, and ever since he's gotten full use of his hand and gotten back into the swing of things with that, I think he's been a really good player for us.
From like a mental standpoint, how much does having Mack impact him as far as he's not looked at as the first-round pick who's got to have double-digit sacks? Now he can be a complimentary guy. How important is that, if at all, for someone?
I don't know. You guys ask me about him every week, so I don't know that that's true. Right? Have I not been asked about Leonard every week in here? Okay.
Vic, you've been around the league and you've had several stops. Is there something special about building a great defense for this franchise, given the legacy that it has and the history that it has?
You know, probably. You know, not having been here before, not growing up in this part of the country, but I think you start to feel it. You know, it's like I mentioned to you guys, I think, a week or 2 ago, you know, Jim Finks, my good buddy, told me way back when that if I ever had a chance to come to Chicago, I needed to because it's a good sports town. They love the Bears. They love defense. And, you know, we're starting to feel that. And hopefully we'll continue it this Sunday. And into the playoffs. And but I think it is special, and I'm happy to see that the fans have enjoyed it, and there's no more apathy out there right now.
Do you think there is kind of a deeper appreciation for the type of football that you guys have played just because they've seen it here before and they've learned to appreciate it here before?
Maybe. You know, that's possible. I do know they like good defense, so that's always good.
Khalil's talked about how he can't go to the store without getting accosted by people. Have you had that same experience?
No. I got recognized one time in the 4 years here when I was out in public. I think that's it.
Where were you?
Just in a gas station, paying for my gas.
And what'd they say?
I said, "You're the defense coordinator of the Bears, aren't you?" You go by name. I said, "Yep." So I told him thanks for all his support.
Are the people back home Eagles fans?
Where I'm from, I grew up an Eagles fan. But actually where I'm from is a hair closer to New York City than Philadelphia. They're about the same, but there's a lot of Giants fans back there too.
Curious if you got any texts or voicemails or anything this week telling you to go win that game.
I've gotten a few.
Just friends back home, or?
Friends back home and friends with the Eagles.
What do you tell them when they? How do you reply to that?
I don't give them anything juicy.
Is there any challenge in getting guys ready for a playoff game who have never played in the playoffs before?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of like, you know, preseason games are one thing. Then you tell the players the regular season's going to amp up a little bit more, and they figure that out, the younger players. And then the postseason amps up a little bit more from the regular season, and they'll quickly figure that out. You know, I think it's just dealing with the early rush of the game and the atmosphere and feeling the stakes that are at hand. And then it's a normal game after that, I think.
Two more. There is. What has impressed you most about Matt being a first-year coach and the success that you guys have all had and kind of the attitude he's brought here?
I think just he's done a great job in handling all his responsibility. You know, he's got a lot on his plate, and he hasn't cheated any of those facets that he's responsible for, both being a great head coach for the team. Obviously, we all know he runs the offense, so that's a full-time job in and of itself. And, you know, and being the spokesman for the team, I think he's done a great job in all areas, and to be commended for that.
How do you approach this week, given the fact that it's possible you could see Minnesota again?
No different approach. You know, we're going up there to try and win that game just like we have for the first 15 games, and I don't see it as a different approach.
You wouldn't change anything? Nothing you feel like you have to tailor just because of that?
What do you mean?
With what you're doing facing the Vikings because you might see them again in the playoffs?
No, not really.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Locker room is open.
should all just get up and leave when he comes in. Good afternoon.
What did you think of the offense's game against San Francisco, specifically how you guys adjusted later in that game to what Mitch called the dink and dunk approach?
Yeah, they, the number one thing that jumped to my mind when you first started that question, didn't take care of the ball, and that's first and foremost. But yeah, I thought we adjusted. They did drastically change their approach to their base defense. It was something they had not done to anybody, and so I thought our guys in general reacted to that well. And Mitch overall was extremely efficient. But then again, that's where you have to finish drives with touchdowns, take care of the ball, even more so, because those opportunities, in reality, 7 drives almost, I guess, and so you have to be efficient.
Matt was saying yesterday that you guys might have a better handle of the identity of your run game. Do you think that's true now than maybe as opposed to like a month ago?
Yeah. I mean, there's just still so many things that we need to do better, and there's so many yards out there we're leaving out there. But at times we've been more efficient throughout the last 3-4 games. And part of that has been on the ground, part of that has been through the air in the run game. But we need to be more productive when we have things blocked. We need to make more yards.
I was going to say, what do you need to do better? I know you said there's so many.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a vision thing, sometimes it's a feel thing, aiming point, whatever. And maybe that's part of still trying to find out exactly what we are best at. But I think up front, overall, we did a decent job in the O-line area. Had some one-on-one battles that we did not win. But no, overall, that's trending the right direction.
Would you have hoped that you'd have a better handle of what your run game is by this point?
Well, I mean, you want to have a handle on everything at every point, but there's moving parts. There's guys in and out, there's roles, there's availability or not based on a lot of factors. And then, you're always trying to play the strength of your quarterback first, and then the O-line second, and everybody else after that.
What would it do for you guys to get Kyle Long back in the next couple of weeks?
Well, he's just a veteran presence. He's a guy that's kind of been there, done that in a lot of ways. I think our guys have a lot of confidence in him, and there's been, that's obviously one of the area of a lot of moving parts. We've really had 5 guys in 3 spots, moving constantly this season, and just hopefully whenever he is back, it's just more cohesive. But yeah, that remains to be seen.
How do you think Brian Wiseman has kind of played in his place?
He's gutted it out. He's given everything he's got. He's a guy that our guys have really, I don't know what the right word is, been drawn to in terms of or drawn in, not drawn to, and really made a part. That happened fast when that all went down. And those old linemen, man, they're a fraternal group of dudes, great bunch of guys, and he's maximized everything we've asked him to do. No question about that.
Overall, how do you think your offense has handled the various injuries, whether it's Mitch or Allen again now, or Kyle, just the various ailments and moving forward and stuff? How do you think they've handled it?
For the most part, pretty well. I think all of our other coaches have done a great job of preparing the other guys. I thought last week it was bang bang, and we were down 2 receivers for a long period of time, and Coach Furry did a spectacular job of being not only a calming presence, but being able to kind of plug and play those guys. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely one finger in one part of the dam and another finger in another part of the dam. But that's the nature of everybody right now at this time of year.
How would you characterize how Mitch has either grown or improved finding holes in zone coverage?
I think just of just taking the old take what they give you type of adage. And I think we in general are more of a top-down launch, and then check it down type of mentality, which is good, which is okay. At times they're going to make you earn it and make you, whatever his percentage was last week, make you do that, and you've got to be able to play both. You've got to attack and be able to take your shots, and at the same time, just, take, a 6-yard gain on a pass play is a great run, and having that kind of a mental awareness or just a belief that those will add up.
In terms of, let's say, cover 2, understanding the vulnerable positions of that versus cover 3 or whatever, how has he been overall with that type of knowledge and ability to quickly get to that, from diagnosis to execution?
No, he's good at that, and I think it's just again, that's experience. It's the thing that nobody ever wants to hear about, but that will not occur unless it's a real game situation. Last week's a great example. You go into it thinking, these guys are 99 point whatever % one thing, and they did the .1 almost the entire game. And so to react in the way he did, again, without the turnovers, great. That part of it's great. And then just knowing, hey, we want to attack, like you're saying, a particular defense with A, B, C, and D. You want him to almost think, obviously beforehand to have that in his toolbox, in his repertoire to just attack a defense with that in mind, knowing that, hey, that's going to be the counterpunch. And I think that he's, he's ahead of the curve that way, more so than I think people would give him credit for.
To go back to kind of build on that point in terms of like the in-game adjustments, and he's made note of it a couple times of seeing something different than what he was planning for. As the season's kind of gone along here, how invaluable has that experience been, adjusting kind of within the game?
It's huge. It's huge. It's just where you're it's that fine line. We never want to react. We always want to attack, and we always want to have that mindset. And you can be whatever the right phrase is, caught off guard by something, but it's not like in a bad way. We're still dictating the terms. We're still attacking, and they whatever, changed up their front. They changed up their pressure pattern. They changed their coverages. We have seen highly varied to how they've gone into the games, but that's again part of this time of year is they're watching themselves, they're watching us, and they're trying to, do the square peg in the round hole.
The 43-yard completion to Robinson, the diving catch. What stood out to you about the execution of the play all the way around?
Yeah, that's a check at the line of scrimmage. Mitch did a great job of changing the route up at the line of scrimmage, and I think the best thing about that is just the early air. Just the anticipation of letting that ball go. We were starting to get it. There was a little edging in the protection, and he had to let that go to a spot early. And early air on a double move, that's progression as far as a development of a quarterback for sure. And for A-Rob to make a great play on the end of it, and he probably couldn't. I think he couldn't see it right off the bat, and he slowed down. That's probably a walk-in touchdown here in hopefully next couple weeks.
Did he check to that because the safety had undercut the corner before, or the corner?
Yeah, and so we talked about that's one thing we kind of counterpunched with, and he did a great job of getting to it.
Has evolved the last couple of weeks. He seems to be more efficient on the eye test.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a bunch of plays out there still, and we're greedy, and if a play's blocked for 8, we don't want 8, we want more, and we are we believe in him 100%, and he's done a good job. He's done a really good job protection wise, and we're still squeezing every inch out of him that we can, but he has improved. He has improved a lot.
All right, thanks everybody.
What's up, Chris? How you doing, guys? Good Christmas?
Yeah, what about you?
That was good. It was good.
What time did you guys get to work on Christmas Day?
In the afternoon. Yeah, it was a good schedule.
To ruin the Christmas cheer, what did you take away from Cody's missed field goal the other day in the diagnosis?
Oh, kind of what we call toed it a little bit. Obviously a kick he has to make. He knows that. Disappointed. He's disappointed. But can't dwell on it. You move on to the next one, and I think that's what he does, and that's what we're going to do.
Have you seen a common thread in his misses this year?
Well, that one, the ball jumped right off his foot, got right up in the air, and looked good. Just missed it on the sweet spot a little bit, and that's what caused it to leak a little right. There's been a couple of those, but you know, it's just one of those deals. You just kind of keep going and grinding, and he'll do that, and expect him to make the kicks when he's supposed to. So, looking forward to this week for him.
When the misses do mount, I know you mentioned he turns the page quickly, but he's up to 6 or 7 now. Do you have to have any extra changes or conversations with him just to make sure he's all right?
No, not with him. I don't, to be honest with you. We did, you know, I handle him the way he needs to be handled, I think, and he's very professional, and that's a strength of his. And yes, some of those misses have been very disappointing, but you know, you can only learn from him. You can't dwell on them. The hard part in our world is you have to make those, and he understands that. And so we just have to kind of keep attacking it. I mean, since the Detroit game, you know, he had put together a good little run there, and then I think missed one in the Rams game, and then the other day. So we gotta keep staying the course, and we have confidence in him. You know, I mean, I think that's never, it's not going to wave with me or coach. I mean, he's our guy, but at the same time, you're our guy. Make those kicks, and he'll do that.
What'd you make of the turf out there last week?
I think it was what I expected. You know, there's you know, some footing at times was slippery, but you know, that's part of the elements they were playing on it too. So I didn't give any credence to it. All right, guys, I love that one.
That's good. Thank you, fellas.